Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of the Engagement Tree. I'm here with my usual co-presenter, Sarah Sanders, co-founder of the Engagement Tree. And this episode, we are incredibly lucky and very, very humbled to have Cliff Mallaby, a long-time colleague and friend of the Strive Group, as I'd like to say, manufacturing royalty. I'm sure Cliff will probably say not. However, absolute pleasure to have you on. Cliff, welcome to the Engagement Tree. Thank you for sharing and giving us some of your time. We could just get straight into it. We are approaching the end of 8 weeks in isolation, and today we're going to very much touch on the topic of those businesses and manufacturing businesses, probably in particular, who are looking to get back into productivity, get back to work, and some of the lessons that certainly Cliff has learned over the years, and some teachings, and how and when is the best time to be operating. So, Cliff, thank you very much for joining us. For those people who probably wouldn't know you, it'd be great if you could introduce yourself and just give a little bit of an overview on yourself and your background, please.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks for the introduction. Not believe a word of it. Okay. For people who don't know me, my name's Cliff Mallaby. From a personal point of view, I'm a working class Brummie. I was brought up in a housing estate in Birmingham. I'm proud of it. I obviously, like most people in my time, went through the apprenticeship route. So I did engineering onto electrical engineering, and to be honest with you, looking back, I think the apprenticeship route was a real good life learning. From the apprentice, I then became the electrical maintenance engineer through to maintenance manager, facilities manager, onto works engineering manager, and at that point in my career, I made the step of going into the operational side of things, which is, at the time, I thought it was a good idea, but the operations people are measured to death. So, the engineers can step to one side and not get away with it, but be not exposed to that harsh environment. And from the operations side, I've had various roles: manufacturing manager, operations director, managing director, group operations director, group managing director, all the various roles. And I don't believe in titles, to be honest with you. I have this view that everyone's equal, and it doesn't make any difference to me. And anyone who knows me would know that when I introduce myself, I never say I'm the MD of so-and-so, I just say I'm so-and-so. And I think that's the way it should be. From a product point of view, I've dealt with all various types of aluminium, stainless steel, iron, cast aluminium, plastics, composites, rubber extrusions, rubber compounds, the complete myriad of materials, the whole of not just automotive, but manufacturing in general. From the sectors I work with, obviously I've worked in automotive, I've also rail, I've done some work with medical, commercial vehicle, marine and catering. So pretty diverse in terms of the market sectors I've worked with. And all of them have got their own demands and their own idiosyncrasies. In terms of products, I've made from bus shelters for TfL through to PCBs for Limbus technology and automotive cars. So quite a range from sectors and a range of products. At the moment, in 2015, I made the decision that I was going to form my own company, which I did, CMM Business Solutions. My wife and I and daughter were sitting there one day, and I said, I'm fed up of making money for everyone else. Sorry about that. And we decided, and it was a joint decision because my wife is the boss.
Yep.
So I'm the boss at work and she's the boss at home. And we made the decision to form this company. Basically, business turnaround, troubleshooting, interim work, contracting, and really just going into companies and supporting them in terms of the issues they have. What I have learned from a time in my career is every business has got its own issues and its own problems. And you can't apply techniques and procedures and methodologies to the business. You have to understand what's happening in the business.
Yeah.
And going in as an interim or a contractor in various businesses with different problems really was a good learning curve in terms of being able to help and support. So that is a real potted version of me. Nothing exciting, nothing sexy. Um,
A
I'm,
vast
I'm not,
array
I'm not
of.
going to say that word, Ben, but I just did, so apologies for that.
I mean, for me, the experience and the knowledge that you've gathered across so many sectors, the roles that you've fulfilled, the distances that you've travelled, and the different types of sites and environments that you've worked in, really puts you in a position where you can offer that much needed support and advice to businesses at this time, because you've seen a vast array of good practice, bad practice, probably indifferent practice, things that have worked, things that you thought probably could have worked but didn't work. And now we're very much moving into a new world, and you've got so much experience across so many sectors. When you look back across all of the sectors and looking at businesses trying to get back to normal, but really, I suppose, what is the new normal for businesses now?
Yeah, it's a good question, actually. This is my opinion. I think from the manufacturing side of the business in the UK, I think you're probably looking at 12 months to 2 years. And that's depending on lots of other things taking place in terms of medical activity, so on and so forth. But the new norm really is about looking at a business, going through a whole new range of assessments. And I don't just mean risk assessments from the supply base right the way through to the customer, and overlaying the COVID guidelines, and they are guidelines, they're not legislation, these are guidelines, and overlaying those within the business, adapting them for the business, and ensuring that that's sustainable and robust. My background is going into business and I'm putting in sustainability. Very easy to take a set of regulations or a set of guidelines, writing procedures for them, putting them into the workplace and walking away and thinking everything's going to run. The reality is different. I'm sorry, Ben, sir, I should have mentioned from an educational point of view, I obviously got my City and Guilding, my tech, my TEC. Carried on. I then went to university as I progressed in my career. So I did my postgrad diploma, I did my NEBOSH, I've done Six Sigma, and I've tried to ensure that my education is in line with my career progression.
We're gonna touch on that, because you spent some time out in the Far East from previous conversations, and that's where is that where you really learnt the fundamentals of lean practicing and your lean teachings, or did you learn that here and then operationally used over there?
No, I mean I was very, very lucky to be taken to Japan for training. Really lucky, and whether it's me or the training I was given, I found it really, really useful. And I don't just mean the processes and the techniques, I mean the actual culture and philosophy. I call it a mindset, sorry. And it's really that mindset that I take away from all my learning, as well as all the system process and everything else you can do. What I believe is that a lot of people look at the Japanese way and they use the techniques and process and everything. Really, it's about the mindset of the business and how the business is going to run. So my change point in terms of my development really when I spent some time in Japan and got under the skin of it and really understood it, as opposed to just coming away with saying I can introduce this, introduce that, and introduce that. So I was really, really fortunate to be able to do that.
And is there vast difference in how they operate, or do they operate very similarly to our manufacturing plants operate over here?
Yeah, it's a good question, but I mean they have a different culture. And if I give you a simile, in the UK, if you put at a 6 foot rule, sorry, my for some reason my email has just come on.
Oh, was it an important one?
Sorry about that. If I give you a simile, if you have a yellow line painted on the floor, on one side you've got a 6 foot revolving sharp blade, and the line says "Do not cross." In Japan, no one crosses. If you did the same in the UK, someone would cross. And that's not me decrying what's happened in the UK and everything else. It's just that different cultures.
But why do you think that is then, Cliff? Have you got?
I think it's inherent legacy.
Yeah.
You know, we come from a feudal system. We're going back centuries. So we have a democracy and a monarchy and everything else, and which means we are more, you know, we are more flexible and we diverse more. That's probably not the right expression, to be honest with you. But in Japan, they're very disciplined and you know,
almost set in their ways, whereas we're willing to be a bit more flexible with our approach.
Yeah, and it's double-edged. It makes us fraught in terms of some of the mistakes they're making, but the same you make us very entrepreneurial,
Yes.
And very creative. And you can see that across all industries. So back to your question, Ben, it's a cultural thing, I believe, in terms of how the Japanese and how European the UK run. And can I just say that the Japanese way of working isn't the panacea. It's really just some of the techniques and tools. And also, it's mostly common sense. You know, and it is common sense. It's nothing, you know, high tech. It is really, really common sense.
Common sense is something that unfortunately lots of people don't have, though, do they? And that makes it can make it a very dangerous environment, certainly in manufacturing plants.
Yeah, which is why I go back to mindset. You know, you have to change people's mindset in a manufacturing organisation as well as putting everything else in place, and that is absolutely fundamental. It's also fundamental to sustainability as well.
Yeah.
Because
sorry, Glenn.
Oh, sorry.
No, I'm just about to say, Ben talked about the new world and what that could look like. What support in your mind, from your expertise, could businesses help them get through, if you like, the change into the new world or the new norm or whatever we foresee it?
Yeah, I think, you know, there, Ben, you know, personally, you know, I have to earn to look after my family. So they're being, you know, the all seeing, all knowing. And people who watch this video will appreciate that, and also appreciate everyone else has to earn. So for me, it's two streams. My ability, skill sets to go into a business and assess the business, both in terms of where it is currently and where it needs to be in terms of COVID compliancy. And then create an action plan, a timing plan, and then for the business to implement it themselves or me to help them. But also we need to be cognizant of the fact that the first time Boris Johnson's mentioned the HSE, which he's never mentioned before. He mentioned that we get words that they will be checking, was one of his words. They've already given them a 12 million boost in terms of funding this week. So there's two things really that I can support with is the COVID compliance and ensuring we can get manufacturing up and running quickly as possible. And to me, that is fundamental, regardless of who's paying what and whatever. If we can do our bit to get this country back on its feet, then it benefits absolutely everyone. Yes. And the second one is when the HSE turn up, they're not just going to look at COVID compliance, they're going to look at the whole of the business in terms of how it runs currently in terms of health and safety. And it's really looking at existing processes, creating processes and implementing and ensuring they're sustainable and real for COVID-19 to enable the business to get back to running. And there's two levels of running in a manufacturing site. There's effective and there's efficient.
Okay.
And there are, you know, I've had arguments over those two words quite often in my career. And they are totally different. They sound similar, but they are. Effective is the plant's running, we start to make parts, or we start to put the customer, it's costing us X, and it could be costing us Y. But we are getting churn, the supply base is flying, we have volume, so on and so forth. So we can run the site effectively, but from a cost point of view or a margin point of view, probably not anything near as it was before the lockdowns.
Right.
And then that's the first cycle, and that's really the simple thing was the isolation of employees, so on and so forth. And the second one is the efficiency. So that's the second cycle where you look at the fact that the plant is now running, and then, okay, how do we make it efficient? What's the next step in terms of improvement? So I see it as two fundamental work streams. Going back to what we spoke about earlier, Ben, about the Japanese way, one of the things which I put it one of my emails is that when I was in Japan, they taught you what they call ATF, which is anti-torque factor. And I was sitting watching Boris the other night with my wife, and I said to Justin, I said, excuse my wife, I've been trained ATF. And ATF has a hierarchy, and basically what you do is when you are putting in systems, processes, methodologies, technology, then you involve the operator in terms of its compliance. So, for example, you have two operators working on the machine. Part of that process, in terms of the design, the implementation, is you put ATF in place, which is anti-fault factor. So you design it, the fact that the operators aren't close enough, and that's all we're not considering. And the hierarchy of that is threefold. First of all, health and safety. And what I mean by that is when you have people in a manufacturing environment, and some of them are very, very aggressive, robust manufacturing environments, any distraction is a health and safety issue, which I'm stating the obvious, so apologies for that. So anti-fault factor, first of all, is health and safety, distraction. The second one, in terms of the hierarchy of ATF, is quality. And once again, if an operator is making a complex laptop or whatever you decide, then any distraction may result in quality issues. And the third one really is operational efficiency. So when you're designing or implementing or laying out or looking at material flows or any of that type of thing in terms of the methodology of production, ATF is quite significant. And it sounds quite mercenary. I don't wish to sound mercenary, but it lends itself quite nice to COVID-19 at this moment in time.
It certainly sounds like it does.
Because it gives you all the benefits of getting the plant operationally effective as quickly as possible, whilst being compliant with COVID-19, with the undertow being looking after the operator, and that's what it's all about.
Well, you're looking after the operator, but you're also promoting the efficiency and the effective running of the business at the same time, which is what you're outlining there, isn't it?
Yeah.
You spoke about your phases from effective to efficient. Now, this is something that I don't know the answer to. Could you put a time on that, or is every single environment different?
Every single environment. Sorry, Ben. I wish I could give you a time.
No. That was my thinking. All of these different types of environments, different sectors, each one having their own different issues. I didn't know whether there was a staple process, or actually every single process is bespoke, because actually, as you've just said, you don't know what the issues are within that business or that sector until you really get under the hood of the business, I suppose.
Yeah. So to take that further, then, what would be the starting point, Cliff? So I imagine even with Ben and I and the Strive Group and everything that we do, we've had to really look back to the bare bones of the new world, how we want to evolve, how we want to develop. Does that look different than it did? Does it look the same? Is it just a different timeline that Ben says? A lot of organisations probably just don't know where to start. We've got government guidelines that understandably might change. Where would you start to support an organisation? And we'll use the manufacturing industry. To start making that change.
Yeah, it's a good question, Sarah. My view, my opinion, is that the start point would be to review all current practices.
Okay.
And once again, this is my opinion, what businesses are in danger of is taking COVID-19 and they're trying to apply it. Yeah. We need to understand what the current practices are. And what I mean what the current practices are is, I don't mean the procedures that give tick in the box on a site. What's actually happening on that site? And you have to excuse me, there's an expression called Genji Gabutsu, which means go and see. What that means is the directors of the business believe this is going on, and the reality is something totally different going on.
Yeah.
So the start point is the review of all the current documentation, all the current procedures, all the current standard operations, all the health and safety, all the minutes, everything that the business is running with, and then spending time reviewing that documentation in line with actually what's going on. What's working, what's not working.
Yeah.
And if you don't do that first, overlying COVID-19 is almost putting bad on bad. That's probably not a good expression.
But you're right, though.
Yeah. So when the Strive Group and Northern Powerhouse established the engagement tree at the start of lockdown, we did so as obviously a piece of communication with our clients and our network, but also to support them on catching up and talking to you over the last couple of weeks, we were kind of overwhelmed and delighted to hear that you are putting out an offering to support organisations make those first steps. I won't take any of the glory for this, but could you just tell everybody a little bit about where that came from in the offering that you are giving?
Yeah, Sarah, I said earlier, I mean, obviously I have to make a living.
Yep.
You know, and I will never hide that. You know, that's a fact, and people watching this will realise that the same as they do. I'll just reiterate that point. But I genuinely believe this, that we have an obligation to get this country back on its feet. The faster we do it, the better it is for everyone, both mentally and financially. So, you know, I'm quite happy if a company needs some support for me to go in for a day or whatever, and do an assessment on current COVID compliance, COVID non-compliance, and then produce a document that they can use or they can help me to implement.
Yes.
You know, and it's a win-win. First of all, I make new friends and make new contacts. And if they decide, thanks, Cliff, but, you know, we'll carry on ourselves, so be it. If they then decide, yes, Cliff, can you help us, then it's good for me and it's good for them. So, and I'm not a martyr. I just think that, you know, we're all on lockdown. You know, if I can support going to a company, do an assessment. I can do most of the assessment offline because all they can do is send me the information, and I can review it. But it's really going on site and visualising it and understanding what's actually happening in the business.
Yeah, so it's making it real, isn't it? So whatever's on paper isn't always reflective of reality. Yeah. So, and you, just to reiterate, you're comfortable to do that initial assessment at no cost to organisations, to your capacity, obviously.
Yeah, well, I will also say, if someone wants me to go down to Hebrides, then I need to.
they might have to pay you petrol.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
If it gets me out of the house, I'll come with you. I'll carry you back.
Yeah. But I'll say again, it's an opportunity to meet people, make friends, understand what's going on in the businesses, and get this company back up and running.
Yeah.
You know, and we've all got a benefit of that. It's absolutely, you know, we see what's going on television every day. I understand perfectly what Boris and his team are trying to do, this fine balance of health and the environment and the economy and everything else. And if we can support that, wherever that is, then I think we have a duty to. I really do.
So I think consistently with everybody that's come onto the engagement tree, everybody that's interviewed, and they have been vast and far between with industry sectors, job roles, the consistent thread between everybody is that this has brought people closer together. It's taken away almost the aggression between clients and suppliers, and you're not doing this right and this is your fault, and made people work more collaboratively, more understanding, I think, and probably accept a giveaway of expertise a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah, it's quite interesting, Sarah, because for me, where we are at the moment hasn't really changed the way I am. I'll give you an example. I always say good morning to everyone, and I always have. And my wife goes balmy. I've always done it. But even when a lot of people don't reply to me, I have always made a point of saying good morning wherever I am in the world, anytime. People are doing it now because we're in a new world, if you like. And secondly, more importantly, to me, the person that does the cleaning is just as important as the managing director. And I've always treated everyone in the business the same. We're all equal, and those people are out. So you'll always find me talking to the cleaner or whatever, no hierarchy, none of this bull wrench. So for me, the COVID hasn't really changed the way I am. You know, it sounds a bit pretentious, I don't wish it like that. So anyone who knows me will bear me out. We're all equal, and we should all be nice to each other, even if you have to fire someone, if that makes sense.
Well, Cliff, I've known you for a number of years, and I've always known you to be a true gentleman. And actually, yes, I've known that everyone is treated with exactly the same level of respect, and there is no hierarchy, certainly with yourself and with your teams. So absolutely fantastic. And I think actually what you're offering is an essential piece of support to businesses when actually people are looking around, looking where they can get support, whether it's off the government website, HSE, where it is. But sometimes you just need a person. You just need a person who you can bounce off. What do I need here? What is this? What's the best route forward? And if you can support British manufacturing to get back on its feet and back moving again, it's commendable.
And what I have done, Ben, over the last 4 or 5 weeks, I'm actually linked into the government database for COVID. So I'll get real-time updates through emails. So I'm constantly looking at all the new data, the coming guidelines. And what I've been doing is overlaying those on risk assessments, because without a doubt, this really lends itself to risk assessment. You know, to put COVID-19 in, you have to carry risk assessment as to why you're doing it, what's the risk, and how you're going to do it, and how it's going to sustain. So I've been overlaying all the new guidelines I'm going through on a daily basis with risk assessments.
Oh, brilliant.
Which I think is my belief is the right way to approach it.
So this is definitely a space where you are a subject matter expert. Is there anything else that you would like to leave viewers with that could focus them on what they need to prepare themselves for restarting their businesses?
That's a good question, Ben, and a difficult one to be honest with you.
Very much, which is why I've got to throw it in there at the end.
I can't answer you. What I would say is that there is lots of guidelines coming through. A lot of businesses would already have their own, larger businesses will have their own infrastructure in place. So they have all the support. Small, medium, they may have holes in terms of reduction in heads and their expertise. I can't really answer it other than if they're going to do it themselves, then they need to fundamentally look at the current business processes and documentation. That's from how they manage the supply base, right the way through to how they support the customer, and all the sections in between. And my only advice to anyone who's going to do it is to look at the current procedures and processes before they jump into the COVID-19 and end up with another layer of things that aren't working or not happening. With the HSE around the corner, which was a veiled threat from Boris this week, you know, you have to ensure that you've got it right.
Yes.
Because without that, we're talking about people and we're talking about people's lives. We're not talking about someone putting the finger or breaking a wrist or the accidents happen at work. We're talking about people's lives here.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, it is a totally different scenario in terms of the reality of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so get the foundations right and don't try and retrofit something that's already broken. Otherwise, it can have a further negative impact.
Well, all you end up doing is I'll give an example. I go into a company, and this happened quite a bit, and they have noise surveys. So on the back of a noise survey, they introduce ear protection.
Yep.
And I've been in many companies where you have ear protection zones, designated zones. Yep. And I've been in many companies when you walk into those zones, people aren't wearing the ear defenders. Yep. And that's common. Yeah? Yes. That's common. And that happens. Yep. Now, you overlay COVID-19 on top of that. And by the way, you're going to have to do this every day, wash your hands every day, or clean this down every day, or stay 2 minutes apart every day. What are the chances of that taking place if the current mandated systems in place aren't functioning and working? And all you're doing is just creating another layer of difficulty for the business. Does that make sense?
It does, and I think it's a very challenging time. And just for people that are watching and people that are watching this a bit later on, we'll make sure that Cliff's details are linked within in the description of the video, so you can have direct access and draw upon Cliff's knowledge and experience for your organisation.
Okay.
Cliff, as you can hear, I'm a little bunged up, so I'm going to go and get myself a couple of Lemsips and tuck myself away because it's certainly not COVID, but it certainly is a cold.
Okay. Take care.
Thank you very much for your time today. It's always a pleasure listening to you and hearing about your views and your opinions because I believe they are incredibly valid and very useful for people.
Okay.
Please subscribe to this the engagement tree episode. On our next episode, hopefully I'll be feeling much better and a lot clearer. So it's goodbye from me. Sarah,
Thank you, Cliff. I just urge people to get in touch. I think what you do makes a massive difference. We've seen it with clients we've worked together with, and I think the opportunity that you're offering is fantastic. Proud to have you on.
Okay, thank you.
perfect. Cliff, again, thank you very much. Have a wonderful weekend.
Cheers. Thank you very much. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. See you on the next episode of the Engagement Tree.
Bye.